Honestly, who would have thought that a movie about how shitty racism is would have ended up being one of the best comedies of the year?
We're on a roll, baby.
BlacKkKlansman is the new joint by Spike Lee, and I'm going to disclose something that's a little bit horrifying right now. This is the first Spike Lee movie I've seen. Somehow, I don't know how it's happened, but somehow I have not seen a single Spike Lee film before this. I know I need to do the right thing and do the right thing. It has been noted that will be up very soon. Got to get on top of that. This movie is based on the autobiography by Ron Stallworth, who was the first black police officer in the Colorado Springs Police Department, and eventually he went on to become a detective, and then as a detective he infiltrated the KKK, and he did that by establishing contact with them over the phone, pretending to be a white guy, and then every time they needed a face-to-face meeting, they would send in an actual white detective, Flip Zimmerman, who was in this movie played by Adam Driver. As crazy as that sounds, this is a true story, and one of the best things about this movie is that Spike Lee and his co-writers never ever try to hide that craziness. This is straight up one of the most unconventional crowd pleasers I have seen in a long time, and I think that's kind of because this movie is a crowd pleaser. Like, that's such a bizarre thing, because this movie is really dealing with some really heavy stuff involving racism and bigotry and all that kind of stuff. So it actually took me a while to register the fact that this was indeed a through and through comedy. I mean, Spike Lee and the writers want us to laugh at racism and obscenity, and that's just really crazy in its own right. And it's not just a movie where we explore racism and laugh at racism to disempower it, but it also just has a really great cast of characters that's really thrilling to engage with. John David Washington finally has like that role, that one role. I've seen the guy around in a couple of things lately, and it's good to see he's finally got this just meaty, hearty role that he can really sink his teeth into. He's absolutely fantastic in this movie. Great comedic timing, great delivery of every single line. You know, you really feel a lot of weight behind everything that he says. Like, he's really connecting with it. Adam Driver just continues to be like, who is this guy's agent? He has worked with so many great directors in such a short space of time. And again, he's just fantastic here. He really, you know, I don't think he can bring anything less than his A game at this stage. He really is just one of the best actors on the planet. And again, his comedic timing here blended with some really intense drama. He just nails that kind of thing. Laura Harrier is excellent in this movie. Some of you may know her from Spider-Man Homecoming. And I think her character plays a really interesting role here, because the writers almost use her to show kind of a different perspective to I guess, hate, because she's part of the Black Power movement and she's very actively against cops, and for good reason. There's stuff shown in this movie where it's like, okay, good reason. But the character of Ron Stallworth is, of course, a cop, and when these two characters interact, he's always probing at the idea that, like, yo, not all cops are bad. You can't just blanket hate everyone just because, you know, a group of people have done something bad. It's like, that doesn't suddenly make everyone trash. So having that kind of element is almost an interesting balance and contrast to the straight out, like, Ku Klux Klan is fucked up. No one's denying that. That is messed up, and once you're on the inside, you're like, yo, very few redeemable qualities, guys. You really do suck. But it's an interesting contrast to have that. Also, I didn't know this, but Steve Buscemi has a brother, and he's in this movie. Corey Hawkins has a small role in this movie, but my God, is it powerful. It's very much kind of a monologue, but oh boy, he's fantastic. I really want to start seeing this guy in more stuff, because he kind of had this big entrance when he was in Straight Outta Compton, and I was like, this guy's really great. I'm keen to start seeing him in more, and then he hasn't been in much, but he really is a fantastic actor, and he really does some fantastic work in this very small role. Also, all the KKK members go right in on the hate, and they are so, you're just like, I hate these people so much, and they really deliver all of those roles really well. Utterly convincing. Topher Grace as David Duke is fantastic as just this weirdly mild-mannered, just hyper-racist guy. Like, it's so bizarre, but he really does a great job. And there's also the guy from I, Tonya, Sean. His name is Sean in I, Tonya, is again one of the Klan members in this, and it's just like, the guy is a comic genius. Like, he's so utterly, he's one of those people who's like really unique, looking and the delivery, and just, he was fantastic. Cinematographer Chase Irvin, who is best known for Beyonce's Lemonade, really does a great job of highlighting the production design, which is, a weird thing to say when we're talking cinematography, but this movie has great production design, and the cinematography really feels like it's working hand in hand. There's great color schemes, there's just great kind of focus when you set up a frame and you can kind of distinctly make out all these different things in the room. Your just attention is drawn to it, and that's because so much of this is shot in mid shots and wide shots. There's not a lot of close-ups, and what that does is when you pair it with the fantastic editing that kind of gives the movie a really energetic flow, but that kind of distance, not disconnect, but distance, visual distance, actually kind of enhances the absurdity of everything, because you've got a frame where the characters kind of stand out, and them kind of always having that feeling of being slightly out of place definitely ups the kind of craziness of the entire story. I guess what I'm saying there is that the cinematography and editing are working together to kind of amplify the overall silliness of the movie and allow the comedy to release with far more fluidity. It just comes out really smooth. And speaking of smooth, I want to give a shout out to the soothing blues score of longtime Spike Lee composer Terrence Blanchard, who kind of brings a really cool vibe to this movie that definitely, I guess, the movie needs. I mean, tonally, it's kind of so bizarre, but it's got this really driving, kind of melodic, I'm going to keep using the word soothing because it's just this really, really interesting soundtrack. Definitely one of the best of the years. I've found myself humming it a few times kind of since, because it's just, I just vibe with it, and I think it just works so well within the movie. BlacKkKlansman is a really bizarre movie on so many levels because it's a comedy about how gross racism is, and it's kind of angry at the fact that people are racist, but it wants us to laugh at them because racism is dumb. And because of that, it's kind of amazing. I don't know how he did it, but Spike Lee managed to make a movie about infiltrating hate fun. And I think that's because he just totally leaned into the absurdity of this story. He did not shy away from how silly it is. He did not try to make a kind of darkly focused movie about, yes, racism is super fucked up. Instead, it's like, racism is super fucked up, and now we're gonna laugh at it. And that takes an insane amount of confidence, and the movie really turned out great. It's smart, it's funny, it's engaging, and it's endlessly cool. And it also manages to hold up a kind of mirror to our current reality, because it's still stunningly relevant. It's kind of looking at today still and saying, yo, this stuff that you were just laughing at is still going on. And I think this movie does a really rare thing in that it kind of evolves the conversation. It's not often, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a movie that's made laughing at racism work quite in the way that this movie does. And that approach totally pays off, and it leaves us with a crowd pleaser that is smart, funny, engaging, and just endlessly cool, while still being stunningly relevant. It holds up a mirror to the reality of today and says, hey, that stuff you were just laughing at is still happening. And I don't know if this movie provides any answers to it. I think this problem is too big to be answered by one movie, but it contributes to the conversation in a new and effective way. And I think this movie is just really great because of it. So those were my thoughts on BlacKkKlansman. Have you seen it yet? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you like this video? Of course you did. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel down there somewhere to see a whole bunch of cool new stuff from us. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And if you're a big fan of this channel, you can support us on Patreon to keep this thing going. We have a bunch of cool rewards on there for you to check out. I will see you guys in the next video.